One thing I did note this week actually, and I have again, I have some mixed feelings about it. I'm curious to see how it does, but Microsoft released, or Asobo, I guess, Microsoft released their first paid DLC for Microsoft Flight Simulator. They released a new airplane called what's it called? It's a little ultralight. I forget what it's called now. The Top Rudder 103. That's what it is. Here it is. So they released the Top Rudder 103, which is this little tiny ultralight, little one-person ultralight, as a paid DLC. So it's an add-on. It's if you will, it's an add-on airplane. But it's actually made by Asobo. For $10 US, I believe. I think $9.99 US. So the question sort of becomes, the one thing, and I'll say this right now, is that it's good the way Microsoft has certainly not shut down the add-on market whatsoever, and Asobo has not shut that down. They very much are doing their best to kind of get out there, albeit slowly, and create an SDK and support other developers. So why is Asobo getting into the DLC business themselves? You know, they're selling the base sim, and the one thing I'll say is the base sim is not done by any means. So why are they getting into the DLC market? I guess probably money is ultimately the answer, right? Will this be successful, though? Will they make a lot of money off this? Now, the ultralight, it seems like a very fun airplane. You can probably squeeze into some very, very small fields and things like that with this airplane, which is great. But will it be something that people really will want to pay and $10 for? On top of the price you've already paid for the sim. Um, and when you look at what the current aircraft in the sim are like, is this going to be a really decent airplane? Because this is the thing, is that Asobo has already released like 2 dozen airplanes. All the default airplanes in Microsoft Flight Simulator are Asobo's airplanes. So the same team that developed those probably should have, in theory, developed this airplane. So is this airplane going to be that good? Their lighter airplanes have generally been not too bad, but how good of a model is this going to be? How good of how realistic is it going to feel? And is it going to be worth $10? And at half that price, I would have probably said okay. $10 is not a lot for an airplane add-on, but they made the sim, and again, like the default airplanes are not spectacular. They're definitely not spectacular. So. Is this going to break the mold? Is this going to be better than any of the regular default airplanes? Is it going to just sort of be another default airplane? And if so, if it's going to be like another default airplane, then who's going to want to pay $10 for it? I'm curious. I would love to see the marketing, the sales figures on this aircraft, see how many people actually went out there and bought it. It doesn't strike me as something that certainly I was not particularly excited about. If you want to go and do some cruising around in ultralight, the Cubs are the Cub. In there, there's a couple of tail draggers, in fact, in the default aircraft list, and they're quite nice. So I don't know that that's something that I would necessarily want, but I guess there's lots of people, like, you see the scenery, and you see the scenery out there, and it'd be good to experience it in a nice little small airplane where you can get really close to it. You can do some tight turns and go down some small valleys and things like that. But again, I just really wonder, would it be enough to really be worth $10 more? If you've already paid Asobo $60, $100, $140, like however much you paid for whatever version of the sim you've got, I wonder if that's going to be enough. That's all. What a tiny little airplane. But yeah, it sets an interesting precedent as well, because I don't think in the past, I'm trying to think now, certainly in the P3D world, Lockheed Martin focused only on their sim and never really focused on releasing anything separate from the sim. You paid for the sim, you got whatever they worked on, was included in it. I wonder about, I just wonder, because then you've got other airplanes that are kind of coming to the sim, like the ATR-42 next year coming to the sim and officially being, an Asobo airplane being developed in conjunction with Asobo. Is that going to be a payware airplane? Is it going to be, and I imagine it's going to be, is it going to be a higher quality? if Microsoft and Asobo are supporting it, how much money are they taking from it? How much are they padding their pocketbooks with that airplane? So it sort of opens an interesting door. We've sort of reached this point where I feel like the platform developer really is just that, just the platform developer. They're not an add-on developer. They don't make the airplanes, and even Asobo has said this. Asobo's developers have said this. Like, we really are here to create the platform that then other developers are going to build upon. We're going to build the world, and then other developers are going to come in and put their skills to work filling that world, building better aircraft, building better airport scenery and landmark scenery and all that stuff, and all sorts of other stuff to let the developers do what they do well, what they have decades of experience in some cases doing. Let them do those things. So yeah, I find it interesting that Asobo sort of is getting into that DLC market and trying to get into the add-on aircraft market, and I don't know if that's going to work for them. I don't know that I want it. Not that I don't want them to make money, but I want them to focus on the sim itself and really finish the sim properly. Like, it's still sort of in a half-finished state in a lot of cases. A lot of stuff still does not work properly. I really want them to put their effort into updating the sim and improving the sim, and not just scenery updates and like, oh, we're going to add Norway and we're going to add Great Britain, we're going to add Japan. Like, and not that I don't want those places per se, but I really want them to focus on the nuts and bolts of the simulator itself. That's what I want them to focus on. I really do. And any time that they're spending on working on add-on packs like this, I feel is taken away from fixing those problems with the SDK, fixing those problems with all sorts of problems. The default airplanes, like, I still like to fly a lot of the default airplanes. The TBM's a fun airplane, but most of these airplanes, the simple things don't work. Like, the transponder does not connect properly to the external toolkit. So when you turn on the transponder in your airplane, it doesn't go on in VATSIM. It doesn't go on in vPilot properly. Simple things like that need to be fixed. Yeah. Some of the scenery and terrain procedural generation glitches. I was in La Crosse, Wisconsin, LSE, and just to the west of there's like this 500-foot tall mountain peak that doesn't exist in the real world. It's just this one little point of jagged terrain, data error. But it's really obvious when you're flying in that area, and there's a bunch of them still around the world. These are the things they need to be working on. The programmers need to focus on, not building new DLC airplanes. Because it really kind of harkens back to a little bit to me of the whole Dovetail experience. And if there's a company that loves the word DLC, it's Dovetail Games. Oh my god. And I think that's why nobody wanted anything to do with their flight simulator. Because they just milk and milk and milk, and nothing's included, and everything is an add-on pack. And they put out 1,000 add-on packs a year. I mean, you look at Train Simulator. Train Simulator is one of those perfect examples of, like, oh my god, like, there's very little in the base game. The base game is just the base game, but then they produce all the add-ons. Just to take an example. Train Simulator 2021. And if you go and you try to browse the add-ons, widen up here 1 second, do that, filter to all. 706 paid add-ons for Train Simulator 2021, for the current version, the modern version that's maybe been out for a year or so. 706 add-ons published by Dovetail Games. Like, that just blows me away. And that really does speak to their model, which is we sell the sim, but we make our money selling add-ons that $20, $25, $45, per DLC. Like, just blows me away. And if you were to do this, somebody did this. They added it all to their cart. They literally added it all to their cart, and it comes out to like $4,000 worth of add-ons or something. And that's obviously not everyone's going to get everything, but yeah, that's the Dovetail model right there. Is sell a base game, but then sell the add-ons for almost as much as the base game, and sell hundreds and hundreds, produce hundreds and hundreds of them, and hope that people will buy them. And I'm sure some people do. And it's just, I don't want Asobo Microsoft to go down that road. I mean, and it's funny because, like, Microsoft, in Flight Simulator, there's tons and tons of add-ons as well, but I don't know. it's not the developers. The developer's not intentionally kind of producing a game that has very minimal content and trying to sell you the add-ons. The add-ons are third-party developers. I feel like it's a different dynamic when it's third-party developers because it's not the original developer trying to make all this money off the add-on market, whereas Dovetail, that's all they do. They just sell their own add-ons, and they make huge amounts of money, well, or they try to anyways, off of selling their own add-ons. And that's why I think nobody wanted anything to do with Dovetail when they made their flight simulator, because they saw that kind of potential coming, and they said, oh, these guys are just gougers. They're going to take so much money from it. So anyways, I hope that Microsoft and Asobo are not going down that road. But anyways, I thought it was interesting that came out this week.